for the facial posing today, we're going to still focus on emotional facial posing. But specifically, what I want to try and do is focus on exaggeration and pushing form and scale on things, mostly the mouth. So the reason I want to do this demo is that I see a lot of animators, especially when they are first working on facial posing specifically, as they're moving the mouth, they try to keep everything very even, or not so much that they try, but by default, they keep everything very even, very static, and they don't play with the scale of things as well as the shape of things. Now, why is that important? Well, the scale of things is hugely important specifically for our mouth, but we can do this with the eyes as well. So our mouth, by default, if you look at the proportions of the mouth, for most people, if you draw a line straight down, so if I look straight at the camera here, if you draw a line straight down from your eye, from your pupil, down, you're going to get to the corner of your mouth on both sides. So your mouth is as wide as the distance between pupil to pupil. That's the kind of default shape of the mouth. But our mouth is flexible. It is very flexible. So I can smile, and now you can see that the corners go to the outer eye, corner of the eye here, or I can bring it in and it gets very thin, about the size of the nostrils here. Our mouth is flexible, and we go side to side. There's a lot of flexibility in that mouth. Now, the rest of the face is pretty flexible. As animators, we have control over everything. So, as we're animating, we want to play with that. A lot of times when I see animators animating the face, especially again the mouth, the characters will be doing expressions like being sad, just take that lip and do that, but the mouth doesn't change. They're going to be happy, and instead of really pushing the corners out, they just kind of do that where they bring the lip down and you get the smiley face, or just do this, but the corners of the mouth stay in line, and it creates this weird element that the mouth is very static. So we want to push that. Now, as animators, we can also push it the other way. So if you want, you can make a happy face, but make the mouth very tiny, and that kind of gets to like the creepy little smile. That is just exaggeration. But we are choosing to do that as animators. We are thinking through that process and applying this exaggeration where and how we want. But we have to actually think about it. This also applies to the eyes. Now, the eyes are one of the most underused parts of the face that I see a lot of students miss out on. Specifically, just the ability to animate the iris size here. You can see just doing this without changing any of the face, where we are getting very different characters in this. So be sure to animate those irises. As you're animating irises actually don't move in real life. The iris, the color of the eye, does not change. In real life, the only thing that changes is your pupil size. As light hits the pupil, it'll get narrower. In the darkness, it'll get wider. Or if you've taken some sort of substance. So that we can definitely animate pretty well in our shots. But as animators, again, we can exaggerate. This does not have to be super realistic at all times. So we can change the iris size, and this really helps sell different emotions. If you are trying to make a character look really pissed off and angry, just shrink those irises a little bit. If you want them to be really adorable, make it a little bit bigger. It makes a big difference. The only tricky thing with that is you just don't want the audience to see it change. So you usually hide it behind a blink or a head turn. And you make it very fast, and normally people will never notice, even with big changes. And that's fine. That's really good. The same thing with the teeth. A lot of times we are animating teeth. Teeth don't move. Teeth are bone. They are attached into our skull. But as animators, we can move teeth around. As long as the audience doesn't know, it's all fine. So with that in mind, let's actually do some quick poses here. Now, the first pose I'm going to do, let's see, I've got a few that I kind of planned out in advance. I've just got a list here. Let's see, which one do I want to do? Let's do one that, yeah, let's do this one. I'm going to do kind of an angry pout. Now, do you ever add anticipation for things like iris change? Ooh, that's a good question. It really depends. Usually you don't. In the eye itself, the anticipation will be the anticipation of the whole body first. Again, you usually don't want the iris change to be seen. It should just kind of happen. With that said, there are times when a character will kind of, let's say, anticipate back in their motion as they're getting angrier. You can kind of push the iris size just a little bit bigger to exaggerate that anticipation before they narrow down. Sometimes you can get away with that, but again, you usually don't want to see it. So the more you move it like that, the more likely it's going to be seen. There's no hard rule for this because we are animating something that is technically not possible. So we do what looks right at that moment, whether it's adding an anticipation or making sure there is no anticipation. Hopefully that makes sense. Now with the pupil size change, that one you can definitely add some anticipation a little bit, but it really depends on what the character is reacting to. If it's reacting to the light, you can kind of get away with not adding anticipation because it's just this reaction to an outside source, to the light, and it's contracting or expanding. Yeah, Puss in Boots is a great example. Exactly. His eyes just went pure black. It was adorable. Wait, do animated movies change the iris to how bright it is in the film? So the pupil size? Sometimes, yes. It's actually something that you can... Maybe I'll do a demo on this. You can actually code or create an expression that would allow the pupil size to be affected by light in your scene. So as I would move a light to the front, as it detects more light hitting the eye, the pupil would shrink or like change size. Honestly, I never worry about doing that automatically. If that's going to happen in my scene, I'll just animate it myself so I have full control. But it is something you could do. And especially like just as a level of polish later on, you could kind of add that in so it just kind of starts to connect. It is more efficient, but the problem, because then it's just automatic, the problem is you never know how it's going to affect a pose. So sometimes, let's say I want a really cute scene and really make those pupils nice and large, but then for some reason there's a light that goes in front of the camera at that moment and then it goes like that. And it's like, nope, that totally ruined my entire pose. So it's that balance. What's going to look real versus what's going to look appealing and interesting for this moment. Oh, am I an artist and an animator at the same time? Just curious. I'm mostly an animator. I don't do 2D art. I'm trying to learn, but I'm still pretty bad at it in terms of actual character art. But I do sculpting and modeling, 3D modeling on the side whenever I have some time. And yes, I am also a mentor, animation mentor. I do freelance animation mostly. And yeah, that's mostly what I'm doing. So let's do an angry pout. Now, the reason why I want to show this specific expression is to show one of the biggest things aside from the eyes that I tend to see missing on student work. So let's actually get this in here. So I'm going to first pose out the character like I normally do when I'm doing facial tests. It's just good to kind of pose the character out, get the body into a little bit of a pose, and let's kind of do the wrong way first. So I'm going to do what I typically see students do on a pose like this. So I'm going to make them angry, so the brows come down. Angry, like that. Now they're gonna pout, so I'll just take the mouth corners, bring those down, so something like that. And then I'll do the big thing that this is not super common, but I do see students do. To make her really angry, I'm gonna turn the corners in like this of the eye. There you go, really angry. And with this, we've got this angry pout kind of. This is all wrong. There's so many things wrong with this. Now, does this mean like it's totally terrible and not salvageable? No. It just means that we haven't thought of the proper connections, and that the face is just being morphed more than being expressive. And this is kind of the big thing with my process as I try to go through any pose, whether it's a facial pose or a whole body pose. As much as this is animation, it's not real. If it's based in reality, if we incorporate elements of reality into our posing, we can make this more believable. We can make this even more interesting to the audience and create a better connection between the audience and our pose and our character. And from there, we can really start exaggerating within that. So I like to stick to the, I don't want to say realistic, but I try to base it in realism and exaggerate from there versus just kind of going with whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's actually do this again. So this is our version. Let's try this again. So I'm going to copy this over. Let's make sure I actually reset the face, and I did not key my face, so oops. Good thing I didn't do too many controls here. So let's key that and then zero everything back out. This is what happens when you forget to set a key. Always remember to set your keys. It makes life much easier. Okay. So there we go. Reset. Phew. Okay, so we've got that. Good. Let's get that in here. And I'm just going to take the arms from this pose. Okay. There we go. So, catch up with the chat. Is it hard to build yourself a career of freelance in animation? Yes and no. It really depends on who you know, where you are, all of that. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Cameron and I were very lucky. We know a lot of people because we went to Animation Mentor. We've made a lot of friends. We also started teaching there. We have a lot of connections everywhere. So at the moment, where freelance is pretty easy for us because we just have like connections all over the industry. If you don't have those connections, it can be extremely difficult. Like when we were first starting out, it's just hard to find the jobs, to know who's looking for freelance, especially remote freelance, which is what we do. It's really tricky. There is no like one solution. The biggest thing is just you have to get your name out there, make yourself known, and that just takes time and networking. And have I heard of Streambeats? I have. I actually use Soundtrack by Twitch for the music. mostly because it doesn't spam the chat with notifications and stuff. So you mean set keyframe to 0 and then go to another frame to change transformations? You mean for the copying? Yeah, if you're trying to copy a pose, let's say I want to take the arms from this pose here, I can just select the arms, middle mouse drag in my timeline, and you'll notice that nothing's changing in the viewport. And then when I set a key, I've copied the arms from that pose onto this pose over here. You can see only the clavicles are moving now. If I want to take the arms from here, once again, take the arm poses, middle mouse drag to frame 3, set a key. Now, when I go there, those arms are in that position. So I can copy those onto the different keys. It makes it very easy to start from different positions in your posing. But let's go in here now and get this kind of pout working. So the first thing I'm going to do, even for facial expression, is make sure I pose out the neck and the head. This is going to be very important, especially the head, because if you don't do this, you're just not going to sell your expression properly. So I want her to kind of be angled down a little bit. Let's get the eyes to stay up. So if she's kind of pouting, it's going to be more like this. She's going to have her head down, and there's going to be this angle to her body, or I should say to her head. So let's see, maybe down like so, and then if she's really like not interested, she's going to turn her head away from the thing she's looking at. Just a little bit. So a little bit like that, and then maybe a little bit of a tilt. And you'll notice I'm doing this as I say it. I try it out myself. I'm not just doing this for the camera, just like for the audience. This is something I do as an animator every day. I have a mirror on my desk usually. I don't have it right now. Or I have my webcam, which I use kind of daily when I'm animating. I'll just have that turned on, and I'm going to try out the pose. How do I want it to feel? Do I want the character to open up a little bit? Do I want them pulled away? I'm going to try to figure out what angle do I want? How should it look? And then I will try to recreate it here on the screen. This is really good. It's webcam POV on 7th monitor. This is a really good thing to have, is just that mirror or that camera, so that you can try things out, see how it feels before you just lock on and start posing. An angle to the head is going to be crucial to getting a pose working. If you don't get the right head angle, it's just not going to work. We showed this yesterday, but it's worth showing again here. So if I just smile and I look right at the camera, it kind of feels like a genuine, like, it's a smile. There's nothing more to it. If I tilt my head up and smile, the same smile, I haven't changed it, but because of the eyes, the way the eyes react and the way the brows react when you raise your head, you can see my eyes close a little bit like that. Now it feels condescending. Now I'm kind of looking with my eyes slightly lidded, and it's like, I'm better than you kind of thing. Yeah, it's a maybe not cool guy for me, but there's something less genuine about it versus the upfront smile. Now if I tilt down, same smile, so just take that like this. Is this a genuine smile of someone you'd want to see on the street? Hello, how's it going? No, that's creepy smile. That's evil smile. You see someone smiling at you like that and you turn the other way. It's the same smile. Yeah, exactly. The Joker getting the van it's very creepy. So when we are posing our shots out, we really need to make sure that head angle works. If we are constantly just leaving the head at the default angle, if we want to make someone sinister, so like if I really want to make someone angry, for example, let's say really angry, but I keep the head level, I can get that, which is kind of angry. But if I tilt it down just a little bit, now it's really angry. Now you get that kind of like one eye, just feel angry. If you tilt it up, you can see the eyes, they don't get lidded as much, but now it's that like indignant anger, like that. Dare you? And now it goes up. So the head angle makes a huge difference. And Johan, hello. We're doing facial poses today. Just kind of exploring more on facial poses and going over some ways we can exaggerate things. So it's really important that we get that head angle. So let's get that in here. And from there, I'm just going to set another key and we'll kind of work in stages so we can see how it progressed through the whole thing. Now, like I was talking about yesterday, the next thing I do when I'm trying to create a pose is I make the quick block out of the face. This is not trying to get all the little details, but just putting in the main expression. So, for example, here, if she is kind of pouting, so I'm kind of going for this pose. Head down, brows down. Well, let's start with the main brow action. That's going to be brows down. Already, that helps a lot. And when you're pushing the brows, the biggest thing to do is look for the overlap of the brows, especially when you're moving them down. I see way too many animators as they're moving their brows, they bring them down just to the eye and then no lower. Brows go way down. We saw that here. If I just, without even like, my brows are neutral. If I do this, look at that. The brows are covering the eye. That's just neutral. When we're doing this and then adding that pout, we want those brows to cover the eyes. That's what's going to push the expression. And you can see already that is making the character feel much more interesting right there. Okay. So we've got a basic brow angle here. I might rotate them just a little bit to add just a tiny bit of anger in there. Just a little. Now, let's go to the eyes. The eyes, I'm probably just going, if she's down here, I might just add a little bit more squint to the lower lids. Just to make her feel like she's got a little bit more tension. Kind of flatten that out a little bit more. Now in the early block out, I also like to use the skin control here if your rig has it, because this is going to really help sell whether a character is tired or more active. So for example, if I lower this, we get more lower lid. It makes her feel like there's bags under her eyes. She feels tired. If I bring this up, it adds more tension. It makes her feel like she's even angrier. And then let's bring the mouth into it. So in the mouth, the big things that I need to do is I need to think of what's going to happen. So if I want that pout, pout. Bottom lip goes out. That's definitely a big thing. And now this is again where your mirror comes in. So try this. See what happens with my chin? So if I pout, the whole chin goes forward. You can actually see it happening in the jaw too. The jaw is moving forward slightly. So if I pout, even if the lower lip, the whole jaw is moving, and the mouth gets narrower ever so slightly. So, let's see. You were saying something about the squint on the eye corners on smiles versus anger. Can you repeat that? Oh, so that was yesterday. So yesterday, the squint on the eye, we're going to get into this a little bit later on, but I can cover it here. The squint on the eye is different when you're smiling versus when you're angry, because it goes from the outside to the inside. You can try this yourself. So if you smile and squint your eyes, you'll notice that it's tight out here. The cheeks are pushing out and you're squinting and you're getting a little bit of a tighter read on the outside of the eye. Now, if you sneer, you bring your face in and into the sneer, everything gets tighter on the inside right here, and it's loose out here. So that's how you kind of push anger versus happiness. Outside, happiness. Inside, anger. In anger, everything's coming out here. Happiness, everything's coming out here. So it's really just that. So with this, let's kind of, we're going to get that onto the next phase. Right now, we're just focused on kind of this early quick pass. So she's going to pout. That jaw should come out slightly. Just a little bit. I don't want to go too far, or else we're going to start getting undershot jaw like that. But it's going to go up, and then I can probably rotate it up a little bit to add a little bit of squash to the face. And then let's take our mouth, make it a little narrower. And this is going to be the biggest thing that you can do. Move the mouth up and down. Whoop, like that. Now, does this look right? No. Ugh, it looks terrible. What's wrong with it? Well, there's a lot of things wrong. One of them is that the lips are just not working right now. As we're doing that, our lips actually get tighter. So I'm actually going to do this now because right now it just looks like she's... I don't know what it looks like, actually. It just looks really weird. The lips need a lot of work. As we move our lips will roll in and out and tighten as we kind of move. So in this case, as you pout, your top lip kind of gets lost within the bottom lip. The bottom lip is the one that takes over. If I want her to really feel angry, I'm going to just roll those in and take the bottom lip. Let's actually bring this back out just a little. Take that bottom lip and move it up. Look at that. Suddenly it works. And actually, you know, I'm going to undo this just so we have a comparison. So let's say this is our initial block out. We'll just work from here. And then move on to another key. And let's do that mouth again. So top lip rolls in. Get that nice tight kind of straight line right there. You can even see it in profile, how that suddenly makes the mouth just tighter, kind of less relaxed. Let's take the bottom lip, do the same thing, and then move it up. Like so. Get that to just cover up like this. Okay, so this is just very quick first passing. Now, another thing that happens when we are doing that with our lips is our lips go out. So if I pout and kind of, the lip go out ever so slightly. It's not doing a kissy lips or doing the ooh shape, but it's still got some motion outwards, especially that bottom one. So as I'm doing this, I might just try to push this out a little bit more. Just a little. Always look at the depth of your mouth as you are posing it out. Okay. So just from here to here, those lips are definitely feeling a little bit more strained and like she's actually feeling something. But what's missing? What's missing in this pose? Well, lots of things. Mostly asymmetry. Everything is very flat right now. Everything is, well, boring. Let's bring in my, I don't know why this plugin never loads automatically, but I'm gonna just bring in my Blue Pencil tool. Blue Pencil is a great plugin for drawing in Maya. It's kind of like the Grease Pencil, but just a little bit more powerful. So everything right now is just straight. Make this a little bit bigger. So straight, 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 straight. Everything is boring and straight. What I want to try and do is I want to exaggerate the contrapposto and line of action in the character. We talked about this quite a bit yesterday, but basically I want it to open up if she's interested in what she's looking at. So open up this way if she's interested, and if she's really pissed off at what she's looking at, typically I'll try to close it off so that she's looking this way, but it's closed off. It's squinting a little bit more. It makes it feel like the character is just a little bit more unimpressed. So let's try that. I'm just going to push this down here a little bit. Maybe bring this up a little bit more. Already we're starting to get some more visual interest. And let's take the mouth and do the same thing. I'm going to kind of move it over to kind of compress this side over here and rotate it. Let's actually rotate the whole thing. Just rotate a little bit to get a little bit more compression on that side. So we're getting that little bit of asymmetry in there. So from there, how can we push it? Well, we've got our start of the asymmetry. Now, what we need to do is just push the shaping of things. So this is where we start getting into the fine detail controls. So for example, let's take this brow, and maybe I'm going to push this to be just a little bit flatter here. I'm going to start shaping this brow just a little bit. Flatten it out. Just kind of give that like a little bit more of a, for example, a flat expression. I'm going to also bring in the brow. So when we're angry, our brows come in. They pinch in the corner there. A lot of people kind of forget to use these controls and drag them in, especially when they're trying to do an angry pose. Without this, your character is just not going to look angry. So I'm going to bring these in right here. And then let's push that asymmetry just by moving this up a little bit more here. So we're starting to get a little bit of a flow in that brow. I don't want to go too high or else it'll start to look questioning, like she's ready to ask this person a question, but I just want a little bit like that. Okay, so that's the brows. Now, as I'm working, you'll notice I kind of work on one thing, move on to the next, move on to the next, and I cycle back. This is very important because if you just work on one thing too much, you're going to get caught in little details, and more than likely you're going to have to redo it anyway once you get to the eyes and find out that, oops, it didn't work. You change the eye shape and now your brows don't work with the eyes. So going down to the eyes, if I want her to feel angrier, the big thing I'm going to have to do is make her eyes more active. Basically what that means is making sure that they don't feel tired and everything's just kind of resting at their default. I want tension in there. So I'm going to bring the corners up on the eyes a little bit. And you really feel it on that outer edge over here. Let's actually just do those outer corners. So once I bring those up, see how that just makes her feel a little bit more active? It feels like there's an actual squint in there versus just kind of the brows coming down, and you're basically going from that where the brows are down but the eyes aren't active to that. Just that little bit of a squint. Extra little effort going into that eye. Okay. Let's see what's a rig should have to do a nice facial pose. Oh, so what do rigs need for good facial posing? Basically just a lot of good facial controls. If your rig doesn't have facial controls to control like the shape of the eye like I'm doing here, you're just not going to be able to get very much. The Apollo and Apollo and what's her name? The Apollo rig and the female counterpart to that. Not Aphrodite. Adonis, no. There's another Greek name. Artemis, that's it. The hunter. Artemis. Those are really good facial posing rigs. You also have the Dave, Dana, Sam, and Amy rigs. Those are all really good ones too. Those ones aren't quite as solid in the mouth, I feel, but they are still really good. Now I'm just going to tweak the corner of the eyes here a little bit. I'm not a fan of when the inner eyelid kind of covers the eye like this. Unless I really want to get a specific feel for it. I feel it kind of pulls away from the focus of the eyes. So let's kind of bring that in, and I'm just going to squint one eye a little bit more than the other. So push that asymmetry. So this eye, maybe just a little squintier. So start shaping things up. Now, as we keep refining the shape, Aang has a good facial controls. Yeah, the Aang rig is pretty good too. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push that feeling of a sneer, of everything kind of coming into the center. And this, I use the skin control under the eye. And you can just rotate it and make it so that you just have a little bit more tension in the inner corner there. So you're favoring one side more than the other. Like that. Just helps to add that sneer feeling. Okay. Push this. There's something about this screen right eye that I want to exaggerate. I think it's the lid. Just need to take that eyelid and maybe bring it down a little bit. I just want to see a little bit of that inner eyelid. Felt weird that we couldn't see it. So with that, let's move to the mouth. Refine that. So with the mouth, the biggest thing that I'm going to start doing now is, once again, trying to push that asymmetry and the exaggeration. So I want to really add the tension to the mouth here. Make it feel very, like, she really just got that those tight lips in there. And what I'm going to do for that is just start adding pressure into it. And you do this by shaping the lip just a little. So the more pressure there is, the more you're going to have either a straight line or kind of unnatural points on the lip. So for example, if I bring my lips really in tight, straight line. If I put pressure on one part of it, like here, you got an unnatural point to it. So we're pushing that pressure into different points. So here, I just want to kind of push that a little bit. Push that straight right there. Okay. Now I'm getting a little deformation. So I'm just going to pull some stuff here. And I'm going to use this pump control. This is going to help add a little bit more mass to the lower part of the lip here, and help push that out a little bit more. You could also pull that in, or use the roll here to change the mass of the lip here. So I'm looking at it in the side view to see how do I want this lip to feel. So this definitely helps add some weight into that lip there. I'm gonna do that. Okay. So we've got that. Let's see. It's an Agora rig. Yeah. So the Aang rig is I believe on Agora as well. The NECA rig, I don't think I've tried the NECA rig. I'll have to try that one out. And suddenly, thank you so much for the bits. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we've got this. What else can we do? Well, at this point, we need to start putting in the sympathetic motions. So sympathetic motions are the cheek, the nose, all of these bits in between the main body proportions or the main body motions, the eye, the mouth, those things. The nose is very flexible and it will move with the mouth. So if the mouth is kind of rotating and moving screen right, the nose is going to do the same thing. It's going to help push that line of action to the face. The nostrils are going to flare a little bit as she gets angrier. And this one here might come up even a little bit more. We start getting a little bit of nasofold right there. Just a little bit of that kind of compression as we feel that sneer in there. Maybe just a little bit on this side as well. Okay. What else? Well, the cheeks. If she's sneering, we're going to get a pull on the inside of the cheeks. Now, this is something I usually do when I'm doing facial animation, but you can do this for facial posing as well. It's not as helpful, but it is still pretty useful. As you're posing things out, go to shading, wireframe on shaded. This is going to give you the wireframe on the character. And the reason this is important and helpful is that you'll be able to see where the parts of the faces are being affected. So as we're posing this out, if we kind of look in this area here, if I move the mouth corner, nothing's happening right in there. If I move the eye, nothing's really happening in there. If I move the cheek, now we're starting to get a little bit of motion in there. So as I'm animating the face, I will do this and look for areas that don't have motion as the character is moving. Once again, is this as helpful here when we only have just the pose itself? Not as much, but it can still be kind of helpful. I'm just moving the jaw here to get a little bit more of a curve to the face. So with the cheeks, this is going to be one of the big things that'll help really sell anger versus just kind of squishiness. So a lot of people, when they're doing a face like this, the first thing they'll do is, oh, the face is compressing. I'm going to puff out the cheeks and kind of bring those up to add that compression, which could work very well. The problem with that, though, is when you're angry, your cheeks actually sink in because you're using your sneer muscle. So if we look at the silhouette of the face here, if I smile, that goes out. If I sneer, even when I'm pouting, see how that silhouette doesn't change? It's not doing that. It's staying flat. So this is where we can really affect it. If I do this, this makes that kind of childlike pouting, whereas the cheeks puff out and you get that shape. But that has to be lower down here. If I want her to really feel pissed off, I'm going to keep those cheeks kind of thinner and just move them up like so. So we keep that nice shape to the cheek. We're still getting a little bit of shaping in there, but not so much that we lose the anger from this. Okay. I think I can push this mouth corner just a little bit more. Or specifically the lip. We're getting kind of a little bit of a push there. Okay, and then just move this up here. Okay, so something like that. Any good tutorials on how to rig a face like this? Unfortunately not. I don't do too much rigging anymore. I used to do it many years ago, so all of the tutorials and stuff I have are way out of date. But There is a rigging workshop, I believe, at Anim School, and Gumroad, or not Gumroad, Gnomon, I believe, has some good rigging tutorials. So I would check those out. Aside from that, YouTube is probably the best bet. So let's kind of push that bottom lip up a little bit more. And there we go. Now, let's call that next phase done. At this point, what's the next thing we do? Well, now I don't call this done. This is like refined. It's definitely got, we've started working on all the different controls. At this point, I want to see if I can exaggerate even more. And this is the biggest part that, like, even with students, when you are posing your faces, it tends to stop here. Do that extra phase, exaggerate. See what you can, how can you make this even better? So for example, let's try just making the squint a little bit more. How does that feel? Does that feel better? Does that feel worse? And you can just hit undo to kind of compare. Definitely changes the feeling of the squint, but I do like it. It just makes, especially the screen left eye, a little bit more interesting. Okay, let's keep the lower lids a little tighter. Well, we haven't even tried the eyes. What happens if I change the eye shapes? So let's make the iris just a little smaller here. Like so. How does that feel? Bigger? Smaller? Smaller definitely makes her feel angrier. What about the pupils? Let's just make those just a little bit smaller as well. And maybe bring this eye in just a little bit as well. Just give a little bit more focus there. Okay. What else can we do? Well, let's just play around with the brows. And this is what it is. It's playing around. Seeing how we can take what we had, not being locked to it. Oh, geez. Hey, Incarni, hey, welcome, and welcome everyone. Thanks for the raid. That's a huge raid. Welcome everyone. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Welcome. We very rarely get raided. Today we're just working on facial posing and kind of going over the process of how to go from kind of basic facial posing into more advanced kind of polished facial posing, which then leads to animation and all of that good stuff. And oh, thank you, Incarnia. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. 240 viewers. Jeez, I think this is the most viewers we've ever had at one time. Jeez, welcome everyone. Oh, the pressure's on. Oh, I gotta make sure I know what I'm talking about now. Welcome. So just in case anyone's new here, which I'm sure many people are, these streams are all about animation, teaching animation, and specifically going on demos that are for you. So if you have any questions, if you have any requests, feel free to ask. This is really just a learning channel, all about giving you a chance to ask questions and have kind of a one-on-one with someone who's working in the industry, and hopefully give you a place to ask questions. So first time 240. Yeah, I know. How are we at this number? It's unfathomable. It's how. And thank you so much for all the follows. I can't keep up with it too much, but thank you so much. Let's see, second raid in a row I'm in, discovering so much cool stuff. Aw, thank you. So let me keep going with this demo here, but like I said, if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. I love having that kind of back and forth and having the questions. So like we were saying, actually, I can kind of do a quick recap. Basically, what we're doing is trying to take a default pose here, and instead of doing the basic simple expression, which this is the horrible one. This is what I see a lot of new students doing. So for anyone who doesn't know, I actually teach at animationmentor.com. So I'm an animation mentor at Animation Mentor, as well as being a freelance animator. This is what I see a lot of students kind of do on their first pass, is this very quick, just putting facial poses in that try to add to, in this case, what we're going for is like an angry pout. But it really doesn't work. So instead, what we want to do is start thinking through it in phases. So we went from the basic default T-pose, and then we first figured out the angle of the head. The angle of the head is going to be super important getting any facial pose to read correctly. And Johan, thanks for the reminder. So we get the head angle to work correctly. Once we do that, now we can actually start on the facial pose. Again, if we don't have the facial angle, it doesn't work. From there, we start to push the main shapes, brow, eyes, mouth, just kind of get them into position. The reason I do this and I don't start working too much on the finesse just yet is I just want to make sure I have kind of the overall blocking of the face in there. From there, we start pushing the asymmetry, start shaping a few things, push a little bit more of the connectivity. So in this case, the cheeks, making sure that we get the planes of the face working correctly, working with the jaw a little bit more. And at this point, we're starting to go into the fine tuning, really just going through and seeing if there's anywhere we can exaggerate and just make even more. So this can be things like, well, I'm just going to try. What happens if I really just push that jaw to the side or that mouth to the side? So just crank it. That could work. So we go from there to there. That definitely adds a little bit more of that like push onto that side there. And I kind of like that. Maybe I can change the angle of the mouth a little bit more too. Now, as I do this, I'm probably going to have to start shaping the mouth a little bit more as well. Just kind of add a little bit more shape there. The more the mouth goes to the side, the more you do this, the more you're going to get a little bit more of a sneer on that side. So if I just bring my mouth up like that, straight line to the side, see how it's going up higher here. And especially if I sneer, you're going to get that shape there. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to want to take this and start exaggerating that shape just a little bit. And Najim, thank you so much for the reminder. I would literally dehydrate without the chat reminding me to drink water. So let's see. Now, another thing that you can do to help refine some stuff is use the 2D pan and zoom in Maya. So to do that, you hit the backslash key or forward slash, I always forget which one, that key, the one above the enter. Just hold that and then middle mouse drag and right click drag to zoom in and pan. So I can go right into the face, and this is different than actually zooming in the camera. This is actually like zooming in on a 2D image. So you're not changing your perspective, nothing else is being affected. And the reason this is helpful is now I can go in here and really start shaping these lips to get exactly what I want. So I want to maybe lower this just a little bit here. Try to tighten the corners of the mouth. Just a little bit. I might even take this corner of the mouth here and let's kind of push that in. Now you'll notice, we're starting to see the inside of the mouth there. That's not a problem. I can just take the teeth here and just move them. So if you're ever starting to run into these issues, it's not a problem to kind of tweak some stuff. I'd much rather get a really appealing facial pose and have to move some teeth and some things out of the way to get the most optimal pose that I can, versus kind of, what would be the word I'm looking for? Accepting that I can't go too far. I don't want to do that. I want to push it as much as I can. Let's get a little bit more sneer here. A little bit more there. A little higher here. So I just really want to get that feeling of the lip kind of pushing up there. I could even push the nose just a little bit more on this side just to help connect that together. Okay. And let's see, there's a question here. I would love to pick your brain sometime on animation tips. Been struggling trying to animate for the game I'm working on. So I'll definitely be tuning in a lot more. Oh yeah, if ever you have questions, feel free to ask. And it goes for questions on anything. Mostly I do animation, but I also do a little bit of modeling, sculpting. So if you have questions on that, mostly the modeling and sculpting I do is kind of animation related. So how to make like props or set up constraints and quick little rigs for animation. But on Mondays, my brother is also co-streaming, and he does a lot of 2D art, 2D animation. So if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff, definitely feel free to ask those kinds of questions too. I'm not great at that kind of stuff, but he's pretty good. Do you draw? I can draw. I do gesture drawing more than anything. Basically just enough drawing skill to plan out animations, but not enough to draw characters or like to actually animate in 2D. One day I'm going to, though. I'm working on it. But yeah, right now it's my drawing skills are too inconsistent for animation. So what I'm doing right now, just to kind of explain my process, is I'm just working on pushing all the different elements just a little bit more. See if I can exaggerate. So for example, let's take the corner of the eye here and just push that up a little bit right here. Just a tad. The reason? It adds that feeling of the sneer, the muscle in the that comes up towards the nose here, pushing up towards the eye. So if I push this, we just get a little bit more of that anger in there. So you can see on this side how it's smooth and round. If I just take that and flatten that out, I don't want to go so high as to do this. That's going to be a little weird. But if I flatten that out, so it's flat here and then round on the outside, I can push that feeling of a sneer. So this is where having a really good facial rig can be very, very nice. Same thing with the inner corner here. Let's tighten up that lower lid there. Really push that. You can even maybe kind of lower it on the outer edge just to kind of exaggerate that tension. Okay. Now, let's actually do something else. Did I set up this rig? No, this is a rig from Animation Mentor. So this is the school I teach at. This is one of their rigs, and it's a really good rig. Why don't I use a picker? Mostly because it takes more real estate space on the screen, and on Twitch it's hard to kind of show everything that I want to show. For the face, I also don't usually use a picker unless I'm doing something much more complex or with multiple rigs, just because I'm used to selecting the controls here and kind of zooming in. But I will use pickers. Pickers are very nice, especially when you're dealing with a complex shot or a very complex character like a dragon or a big mech or something like that, that have a ton of controls. For me, I'm just kind of used to this method. So let's see, what's the next thing? Well, one thing we could try to do is play with the actual scale of the eyes. Now, this is not something that I do too often, but it is very helpful in helping to sell different moods, and especially if you're going into cartoony animation, this can be super nice. So on this rig, I can actually take the eyes, I can scale them down. And by scaling down the eyes, this is going to help pull away from that kind of cuteness of the character and just make the character just a little bit more tense, a little angrier. I can even reposition the entire eye if I wanted to. Whoop. There we go. So this rig, you can really just make some interesting mods if you wanted to. Let's see, what else can we kind of push here? I kind of want to push the nose a little bit more. The angle of the nose here. Let's actually translate it as well. Kind of connect it down to the mouth here. Our nose is very fleshy. If you move your side to side, that nose really moves with. So let's go and do something like that. And I think I can maybe push this brow just a little lower here. Just kind of flatten that out a little bit more. Okay, so let's see what we've got. So we've got that facial expression. Let's just kind of go back one frame, see how it looked before. So we went from that to that. Not a huge change, but definitely you can see that it feels angrier and a little bit more intense. Changing the eye size really helped with that. Now, one last control that we do have on this rig is this kind of squash and stretch control. So I'm going to use this as well to just help enhance that squishiness to the face. So push this, really push this forward to kind of bring that whole mouth forward, then maybe to the side here. There we go. Maybe this one too, just kind of whoop to the side. I'll push that squash and stretch. So now we're going from this, and you really feel that whole squish on that side. So there we go. We've got this exaggerated squash and stretch that is just a little bit more interesting. Now, the rig is a little laggy. That's mostly because I've got it in high res mode. So normally I don't animate this way, but for demo purposes, it just makes things kind of more legible. I've also got like lighting in the scene. So for example, if I move the camera, you can see that there's some nice lighting in here. So that's what's kind of slowing things down. Normally, if you're animating on this rig, I would be animating this on the kind of low res version with kind of the animation texture turned on and no lighting. But you can see it just doesn't look as interesting. It's not bad. You still get the same pose, but visually, and now you can see like it's lag free. It's going 1-to-1. Now, when you're animating, especially as a student, I highly recommend kind of keeping it on the faster version as you're working. It makes it more fun to work than when you're dealing with something that has a little bit of lag. Really, it is up to you though. When I'm doing the fine facial tuning, especially like what I'm doing here, even with the lag, I sometimes prefer having a little lag, but seeing exactly what's going to be the final version versus the performance, but then I'm going to have to tweak things later anyway. And this is highly dependent on the rig, but you'll see this happen a lot in the eyes. So for example, if I think this rig is pretty good, but if I go into low res here, let's actually bring that brow up. See how the top lid, you're starting to get, it's called nickeling, when you get to see all the different faces. I'm not a fan of that. That makes it hard to know exactly what shape of the eye you're going to get. If you put this in high res, and some rigs are very bad for this on the low res versions. In high res, nice and smooth. So I can really shape that however I want. There we go. I even turn on flat shade all on the heavier rigs. Yeah, so flat shade also works really well. So you can just go to shading, flat shade all. And in my case, I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference, but you'll see now, you can see all the individual faces. That'll help speed up performance, because the rendering engine in the viewport isn't having to try and calculate the smoothing. So let's actually see if that makes a difference here. Yeah, a little bit of a difference. Another thing I like to do is sometimes I'll just use flat lighting. Now for this rig, it's not going to be working too well because I have a custom Arnold material. And unfortunately, when you use an Arnold material with flat shading, it just kind of washes it out like this. But if you had a normal material, this could be a good way to just get a different view of your character. So I think with this, we're pretty good on this pose. Now, if I really wanted to exaggerate it to the next level, I would try to push the body to match it. So maybe push the shoulders up. If I really want to make the character feel like angry and pissed off, I might take the whole head and just kind of punch it down into the neck, so they just feel like they're really, I guess you could say turtling, just hiding in their shoulders. Even if it's just a facial pose, a little bit of that body posing is going to make a big difference. But there we go. We've got our kind of pissed off frown. And let's kind of bring this in here a little bit more. As we can see, it's definitely a little bit different than the basic version that we had here, which is what I see a lot of people start with when they do their first pass of facial posing. And especially when you compare the two now, it's just like, yeah, there's a big difference. But even like if you kind of go from this version, the very first version where we just kind of got things in place, this is another thing I see where students will kind of start properly, but they don't follow through. They don't keep pushing it as far as they could. And really, it just comes down to asymmetry. So pushing it so that everything's just not even and flat, and just playing with a little bit of the more refining controls. And then from there, it's just exaggeration and sympathetic action. That's really what it boils down to. Making things exaggerated. If you want the eyes angry, make them smaller. If you want the mouth to be poutier, just push it more. And making sure that the sympathetic action works, that things move with each other. If I move my cheek up, or this corner up here, that pushes the entire cheek section here. If I push my lips out, the whole jaw moves forward. You can see it back here. If I do that, you can see the jaw moving. So you look for this sympathetic action. You look for these connections. Again, the sneer pushing inside versus a smile pushing outside, versus the crying, which it pushes on the outside, but it's more the brows coming down into the cheeks, versus when you're smiling, it's the cheeks going up to the brows. It's all on the outside, but it's down versus up. So that sympathetic action is going to be really what pushes you to that next level of facial posing. And how long do you plan on streaming today? Probably I was gonna cut it short today, but I could probably do another like hour or so. Unfortunately, I have a lot of work that I need to get done today. I'm working on some sculpting for a project, which is a lot of fun. I don't usually get to do sculpting, so it's been fun kind of getting back into that. And how's the sculpt coming along? It's getting there. I didn't get to do as much work on it yesterday as I wanted to, but I'm hoping to get the proportions and the main kind of concept done today. Let's see. Try to increase the viewport performance will not do any difference for anything. Viewport is running on GPU, which is not a problem. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Do you use a mirror for reference? Yes. So I'll usually have a mirror on my desk, or I will have a webcam like the one I'm using right now. I'll just have that open so that I can see what the webcam is showing on my computer, and I'll use that. The nice thing with a webcam is that unlike a mirror, with a mirror you have to look at it and you see what you're seeing right there. It's one to one. With a webcam, depending on your monitors, or if you can just move your webcam around. For example, right now I'm looking at my screen, looking at what my camera is seeing, and it's right in line with the camera pretty much. But I could drag that screen over onto my other camera, or sorry, on my other webcam. So now I'm looking at my webcam feed, but I'm seeing it from the side. And I can kind of see what the sympathetic action happens here. So for example, as I'm talking, I really get that idea of how do the lips move when I say things like the. You can see the tongue, the. It pokes out. So I can start to look at my face from different angles and kind of get different views on it much more easily with a webcam. So I really like that. You just move your webcam around and then just watch it, and you're watching yourself from a different angle. Now, does it make a huge difference? No. A mirror works well. Mirrors, animators have been using mirrors for years, since the early days. But really anything that lets you see your own face and just try things out. As I was doing this facial pose here, like I was kind of showing to the camera like what I'm talking about, but I do that all the time. As I'm posing out my own animations, I'll just kind of look at my webcam and go, try it out, see what's happening, see how I can exaggerate my face, and then I'll try to incorporate it into my shot here. So yeah, it's really kind of whatever you can use. Kind of, I feel like the head could maybe be a little bit more of an angle here. Kind of pull it away just a little bit more. Just a little kind of angrier. Yeah. That feels good. Now, with the eyes, one thing to keep in mind, I didn't mention this earlier, but one thing with the eyes that I'm always trying to do is make sure we can see at least a little bit of the pupil. The moment you lose the pupil, so if I start doing this, suddenly it doesn't read properly. No matter what, I need to be able to see the pupil. I need the audience to be able to see that pupil of the eye. Otherwise, the eyes are just not going to look correctly, and it's not going to feel natural for the character. I'm also getting a little tangent on the chin and the shoulder here, so I'm just going to move that up a little bit more. It's kind of breaking the shoulders here, but that's fine. For this facial pose, that's fine. Okay, so let's see. I kind of wanted to do one more facial pose, just kind of show a little bit of mouth shaping. But let's see. So let me ask you guys. We could do one more facial pose. I'll try to do it a little faster. So since we kind of covered all the steps already, go a little faster through it, and mostly try to show some mouth shaping. Or we can go over some random questions, and if you want, I could give some feedback on some work, if anyone has feedback they'd like. It's up to you. Well, what do people kind of want to see? Let me actually, while the chat is going here, let me actually set that up just in case people want to see the next demo. Okay, we're going to be going from here, okay, into another pose. I prefer the poses. Okay, we can do that. I can try to do a really quick pose, and then if we have time, we can go into, okay, another pose, mouth shaping. Okay, cool. So let's do that. I'll try to do it quick so we have time to go over feedback anyway. And Tapano, thank you so much for the sub. Aw, thank you so much. 5 months, jeez. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. So let's get that facial pose in as quickly as we can here. So let me do this here. So what this is going to be is a little bit of a, I guess you could say, an arrogant like smirk, kind of doing a little bit of this like that. Yes, I'm the best, kind of the smirk going way out to the side. That's going to be the goal. So let's see if we can get this in here. I'm just going to move my camera. I want to get a little bit more of a side view here, just so we can really push that mouth. When you're working with kind of a 3/4 to front view, you're kind of limited on how you can move the mouth and how you can shape it. As you go more to the side, as an animator, we get a little bit more freedom in what we can do with the mouth. We're not stuck with just how the mouth works naturally. We can push it in and out a lot more. We can cheat it a lot more. Let's see. You said you broke the shoulder, and it's okay because of the facial pose. Would you not usually recommend translating bones such as spine, head to get closer to the look we have in mind, or to get extra overlap? Oh no, you can definitely do that. The reason I mentioned that I broke it is if you look at this pose right here, from the camera view, it looks fine. So because we're just looking at this, and because I'm not worrying about any body mechanics underneath, I can kind of just do whatever I want. But if we kind of look at the character here, their shoulders are way too high. This is broken. I've screwed up the body. If I was doing this properly, and in terms of like body mechanics, what I would do is I would bring the head down into the shoulders. So for example, if I'm going to bring my shoulders up like this, if I want the head to sit in the shoulders, I'm not going to then bring the shoulders even higher. I'm going to bring the head down. That would be proper body mechanics. And if this was an actual animation, that's what I would aim for first. Trying to get that in place before I overly translate the shoulders. In this case, if I move the head, it kind of screws things up and I have to move my camera. So it's like, move the shoulders, done. It's one pose, no one's going to see anything else. It's fine. So it really depends on what the goal of the shot is, what the audience is going to see, and what's going to be visible. And what I mean by visible is if this was animated, we would notice that the shoulders are moving way too much compared to what the head should be doing. So I wouldn't do this for animation. I wouldn't move those shoulders like I did right there. And Noelia, hello! Hope you're doing well. So let's get this pose in super quick. So this is going to be kind of a confident pose. So I'm going to, let's kind of get a little bit of the body in here. Shoulders are going to be kind of relaxed. Maybe a little further back. So as kind of people gain confidence, the chest opens up. You can kind of just see this in terms of like nervousness. When people are nervous, their shoulders slump in. They get small. It's like they're trying to huddle in to themselves. More confidence, the chest opens up. So if I want to get that a little bit of a feeling in there, I can just add that in just a little bit. It's not much, but we're going to feel it compared to the default pose right there. Okay. Now, I'm also going to be pushing the eye direction here a lot on this pose. The reason I want to do this is to show things that we have to watch out for when we're dealing with the eyes. The other poses that we didn't really move the eyes. We were kind of having the character look forward. But with a pose like this, let's say I want her to look back here. Kind of like back at someone, hey, how's it going? If I try to do this, you'll notice that I lose an entire eye. I am just getting this pure white. So when I'm posing a character like this, I try to do a very specific thing, which is I will focus on one eye first. And usually this is going to be the main eye, the one that kind of is larger on screen. And I will just pose out that one the way I want it. So I kind of want this eye to be a little bit, maybe there. We'll change it a little bit later. And then once I have that in place, I will use the individual eye control over here to adjust the other eye back into place. So that's going to be somewhere around here. A little bit so I can see the pupil, but that's about it. And what this does is it makes it so that I don't have to yeah, it does look like that. Yeah, there we go. That's the face we're going for. I should actually make a variation that's just that. I'm keeping this to the side for now. So if we have time, I'm gonna make that version just for the heck of it. The reason I'm doing it this way instead of using the two individual controls for the eye is at this point, if I start moving this around, I am now dealing with three separate controls: the master eye control and then the two individual ones. That makes polish in your animation a lot harder. Instead, if I use the master control to be the main thing I use for the screen left eye in this case, and then this one for the screen right eye, I'm only having to do two controls in terms of polish. So that's my typical workflow. I say typical because sometimes it'll change, sometimes this doesn't work for certain scenarios. But that's kind of the main thing. Now, we've got the eye direction kind of in place. Let's do the head angle. Never forget the head angle. It's going to be the biggest thing that's going to help your facial posing actually work. So in this case, kind of confident. When we're confident, is kind of, yes, hello. So you see how the chin kind of comes up a little bit. The head kind of angles up. So you can kind of do this as well. Hey, how's it going? But that's kind of like, what would be the right word? I guess you could say a little bit more flirty. It's kind of going down. Confident goes up. Just, yeah, I'm the best. You get that feeling. So I want to push that kind of arrogance, I guess you could say. So the head will tilt, and we just get that little bit of an upwards tilt to the head here. It doesn't have to be much, honestly, but getting that head angle in place is going to make all the difference in your posing and really make your characters feel correct. So let me double check something here. Okay, good. So we've got the head angle in place. Let's actually make sure I set a key here. I don't think I set a key. There we go. Okay. Makes flirty Joey noises. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's Joey from Friends is a great reference for facial posing, by the way. If anyone wants to kind of get that silly, really just over exaggerated facial posing, look at him. He is fantastic. The mob boss pose. Yeah, that's another good way to look at it. So we've got this. We've got the head angle in place. Great. Let's start blocking in the main things. So eyes. For the eyes, I kind of want this like arrogant, yeah, I've got this under control. So the eyes are going to kind of be flat right here, kind of bored almost, like, yeah, I know I'm the greatest, nothing new. So we're going to go for flat eyes there. The brows are going to be a little lower just to kind of get them relaxed. I could keep them up, but this makes it more of a like smiling kind of, yes, brows up. I want just a little bit more relaxed. And then we're going to push the mouth a lot. So let's kind of get the mouth in place here. So this is where the shaping is going to come in, because naturally, if we just push the mouth over here, the face is looking really janky, isn't it? It's just, this is not interesting. It's It just looks like someone's done this. Just hooked her mouth and blech. It doesn't look good. So how do we exaggerate this and make this mouth look interesting and make the face look interesting without just being weird and ugly like what it currently feels like? And that's going to be the challenge here. I want to exaggerate. I want to make this a really big and fun expression, but right now it just looks, we'll just say it looks blech. It looks ugly. It's terrible. It's just not interesting at all. So this is where the shaping comes in. So let's start shaping things. We'll start with the eyes. So for the eyes, the big thing I want is to get that kind of flat look to the eyes. So I'm going to just move the corners up quite a bit here. And you can see how that flattens the top lid there. I can then kind of push this here a little bit more, and maybe we'll lower the lid just a little bit. Oops, not rotation, translation. Something like that. Same thing with this eye. You can really see how it just looks so weird right there, the way the eyelid is wrapping down over top of it. So let's move that corner up. Take this one, really shape it. And look at that. Even on this side, you can see how when we compare the two, we don't have that like slip of the eyelid in place there. So shaping eyes is going to be one of the biggest things we as animators can do to really help sell a pose. Yeah, it's a huge change. If we are not shaping the eyes, in many cases, it's not going to be bad, especially if you're dealing with front views. But the moment you start going to more side and kind of exaggerated 3/4 views, you're going to have problems. So we really want to exaggerate that here, even the lower lid. Try to push it so that the eye, we feel that kind of eye opening up in the direction that it's looking in this way. So again, comparing the two, look at that. You can see how that flatter eyelid makes the character, the top lid, makes the character look a little bit more confident, a little bit bored, versus the other one where here it just looks janky, weird. I'm gonna just close that eye a little bit more, and I'm gonna open up this one to kind of give a little bit more contrapposto in there. Now let's stay on the eyes and let's get the brows in place, kind of the upper edge of the face. I'm going to bring the brows in. It's kind of like when you kind of do this, oh, and you can see how the forehead wrinkles, everything comes in. It's kind of that, just a little bit of a, what would be the right word? A little bit of a tension in the brows, just there. And I'm gonna again push the asymmetry. So let's kind of open that up a little bit more here. Maybe bring it down. I don't want her to look angry. I just want it to be a little bit like curious, like that. And let's kind of relax it just a little bit more so she doesn't look angry. And bring it down on that side. So I'm just trying to push that asymmetry, that line that gets created there. Now, another really good control to use on your facial posing, if your rig has it, is the skin control for the area between the brow and the eye. So that's these controls right here. This is going to help give you a little bit more freedom over the shape of the eyelid here. And you'll notice that it helps to relax the character. When it's up at its default right here, the character kind of feels a little like really, the eyes feel like they're straining a little bit. By bringing this down, I can relax those eyes just a bit. I don't want to go so far that I lose the entire eyelid, but it just takes some of the tension away from that eye. Makes it more relaxed, more confident. Okay, so we've got that. So the eyes are definitely looking a little bit better here. That compared to that. Don't you think her mouth is a little bit extra stretched? Yeah, that's the thing we're kind of aiming for here. I do want that big stretch on the mouth, but right now it's just not working. We haven't gotten to it yet. I want this really confident, kind of just cocky grin. But how do we get that to work? A lot of times with rigs, when you kind of pull the mouth like this, for example, let's see if we can go any further, it just doesn't look good. It looks like literally like someone just took a fish hook and just kind of dragged her mouth over, and you can imagine like a fishing line, like she's a mermaid that's being pulled out of the ocean. It doesn't look interesting. How can we make it look interesting? Well, we've got the eyes in place. Let's actually kind of go down to the mouth now, and then come back to the eyes later. Like I said, try not to get too focused on one thing at a time, or else you're just gonna get lost in it. We could keep posing out the eyes forever, but we need to make sure the mouth is working. So for the mouth, the big thing that's going to help with this is sympathetic action. That's going to be the first thing. So sympathetic action for a smile. As we smile, if you look at the lips, they go up and they tighten. So wide lips. See how the lips narrow as I smile? As you're pulling, the skin gets taut and it narrows and is squashed and stretched. If I do this, that squashes, makes everything bigger, narrower. So I need that sympathetic action. Now from the side view, if we do this, if I smile, see how the lip, especially the top one, pulls in? It goes tight against the teeth. So if we're looking at this here, let's actually go back to our default pose right there. And then see how the lips aren't doing anything from that side view. It's just there. It's default. So let's push the lips themselves first. As this smile happens, those lips are going to get pulled taut. Now we're seeing a little bit of the gum right there. That's fine. I can always nudge that out of the way. So the lips are a little tighter. Now let's narrow them down. So I'm going to just take both lips here and kind of rotate them in to tighten that together. And then let's move those lips up just a little bit. So, boop. Something like that. Now I'm actually just going to move the gums out of the way so we don't have to deal with those. Boop. There we go. Okay. So already this is helping a lot. Where that mouth is, hey, ketchup chips, hey, thank you so much for the sub. I love that username. Now I want some ketchup chips of my own. Thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate that. Jeez, 3 months. Thank you so much. And how would you animate dimples in if a character has some? Ooh, yes, we can actually show how to get some dimples in once we get everything in here. Let's actually plan that into our shot. So we're going to add some dimples in. Right now, we're not going to worry about it. We'll get the rest of the smile in, and then we're going to get those dimples in. So we've got the lips a little tighter. Let's see how that looks here. See how that makes a big difference already? It's not huge. It's still not like the mouth is right, but it doesn't look weird like it did before. The other one, it looked fake. It didn't look like the lips were actually real. It's like too much Botox or something in there. Now we're starting to get that tight-lipped feeling. It's feeling better. Okay. What else can we do? Well, at this point, we can start getting into a little bit of shaping with the lips. So I think maybe I'm going to drop the jaw just a little bit. So I do want to see a little bit of teeth. We haven't done teeth in the posing yet. So I just want to have a little bit in here. And the reason I want to show the teeth is to show how much we as animators have to move the teeth. For example, right now, this looks horrifying. This is just absolutely terrible. The teeth are like impacted into the lips. We're seeing like past the gums. It's just awful. So let's actually quickly move those teeth into place. So I'm just going to rotate them forward, move them back, and just get them into a nice position here. There we go. So is it bad that we have to move the teeth? No, that's actually common. It's not a bad thing at all. And we're going to refine those teeth a little bit later too. So at this point, our smile has definitely gotten better, but it's still not great. So how can we really sell it? How can we make it interesting? Well, this is where the shaping comes in. And shaping is just taking the lips and moving them to be kind of a little different, to put these forms into place. And I'm not really great at drawing, but I'll kind of draw some out here. When we're drawing the mouth or thinking of the mouth, we want to just think of simplified forms. So let's say we just have a basic smile here. If we are trying to go for a sneer or a yell, we don't just open the mouth up like this and then that's it. That's not interesting. It's just a round shape. Instead, we can go for this kind of M shape here. So the top lip has a little bit more volume to it. And this, what it creates and helps to add is the sneer muscle that kind of pulls up to the eye. It's these two muscles right there, and then the nose would be in the middle here. So this helps to add that sneer. It's that shape. In this case, what I want to do is get the cocky grin. So from the side, instead of just a smile like this, just a swoop, what I want is a little bit of shaping. So we're going to go for a line here that kind of goes into this and then into kind of this shape right here for the open mouth. So it kind of creates that little mouth, like for an exaggeration, it's that cat mouth. Like the, yeah, that kind of mouth. We're kind of doing that, but a little bit more, more angled, just for some characterization. So that's kind of what we're going for here. So what we can see here is we're just getting a straight flat line. That's not quite what we need yet. Oh, let's see. I sometimes keep the jaw open a tiny bit for a relaxed facial pose. Yeah, that's completely normal. That's good, because when we do relax, our jaw does open up. Our teeth aren't contacting all the time. So that's totally fine. So let's try to push that kind of cat-like smile. So I'm going to rotate the corner here. Already that starts to help a lot right there. And then let's take these and just kind of bring these down here. And look at that, how it's, I'm not going to say it's perfect yet. It's definitely not. But it's interesting to look at now. I'm going to just bring this down so we can get that straight. When you're starting to go into this form of shaping of the mouth, it's really a lot of back and forth. You're going to be changing a lot of different things. So I want that nice curl in here. Let's see if I can get to those controls over here. see what we can do with these. Okay. And the big thing with the shaping is, yeah, it kind of has a Vanellope von Sweet smile. She definitely has that little extra curl in her mouth. See if we can kind of push this just a little bit more. Okay. What I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of a break in that line. So what I mean by a break is I want kind of a sharp angle change there to the straight. I don't want it to just be a nice smooth line. So let's kind of push that. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's push the rest of the mouth here. So we're going to focus on just the screen left side for now. And what I want to do is make it so that the lips don't feel even. And what I mean by this is how to put this? What's the best way to show this? When you're thinking of lip shapes, a lot of people, so the default lip shape, or the, not default, there's so many variations. Lips are kind of shaped like this. You've got the top lip like that, and then the bottom lip kind of sits underneath here. Now, the bottom lip is not the same width typically as the top lip. So it ends kind of a little closer in, and then you kind of just get another slight form this way. Now, again, this is not a default. This is, everyone's different. Some people have narrower top lips, some people have ones that are the same. But in general, by adding just a little offset, especially in the width of the lips, you can make things a little bit more interesting. So as I'm looking at this here, let's actually go to smooth shade. You can see how I'm trying to get the top lip to overlap, and then the bottom lip comes out here. This is just going to make it more visually interesting. It's creating an offset in the mouth. Now on this side, let's kind of pinch those corners in here. And one of the big things I like to do when I'm doing mouth shapes, especially kind of exaggerated ones like this, is to push the inner corner, or sorry, the corner that's further away in some more like this. Now, no, that's a little too far. So I push this in so that I can exaggerate the form of the lips like so. See how the corner now is no longer visible. So if we look, dang, I should have saved a version before. Let's actually do that here before we go too far. And did I play with depth? Okay, let's undo that. Okay, I'm going to just move on to another version here and show the difference. So right now you can see how that the outside mouth kind of looks meh. It's just not that interesting. With the corner, what I like to do is push it out. So bring it out and then push it in perspective so that we don't see that corner. This is kind of a 2D way of posing the mouth. It's something that you'll see a lot in like 2D drawings, how the lips kind of just stick out more and we don't see that back corner. So I can kind of replicate that by taking these and just kind of pulling this out here. And you can see how that simplifies the form. So we go from that, where you get the corner of the mouth and then the cheek, to the lips and the cheek. It's very subtle, but it makes a big difference in the general posing and just the appeal of the lips. So let's see here. Just gonna keep pushing things. So at this point, I'm just shaping things to get the lips feeling right. I can push the bottom one a little bit more in right here. So now we have that top lip shape versus the bottom lip. And it feels like she's biting her lip right here. So I'm just gonna lower this a little bit right there and raise this one. Now this is where it just comes into a little bit of practice. You want to study posing and look at posing in different cartoons and different media. So just look at 2D drawings of characters. Look at how they shape the lips. This is what's going to let you get these more interesting shapes. Okay. So that's feeling a little better. Now I think I can move the whole mouth up here just to get the top lip a little tighter right there. Okay. So that makes it. My brother mocks me and says hello like Bo to annoy me. Yes, my hello, my super long drawn out hello. That's awesome. And Bale's wife walks by. You've got a pro crush on the guy. That's awesome. I can't even deny it. Thank you. So let's see. We've got the mouth and we've started shaping it. And already this is looking a lot better. Now I could still try to push it a little bit more. So maybe push it a little further this way. And yeah, let's call that here. Let's see if I can even push it further. I think I've hit the rig limitation on how far I can go to the side there. So, oops, I want to move my camera here. So let's actually just compare what we've got so far. We're not done, but we can compare at least. And this is something I like to do in my posing, where I might not be quite done, but if I have versions like this, I'll just compare what I had previously. So we started with that, moved the eyes, and we've got this really funky, like just mouth. And then we're starting to shape it properly. And you can really see how we got that side of the mouth and it's like, okay. As soon as we do the other side, that's when the mouth starts coming into place and we start really selling that form there. Okay, what's next? Well, do you use the same process for the mouth when working on a still image or a long animation? Same process. It's whatever is going to look the most appealing for this camera angle. So if this was an animation, I would be doing the same thing. The mouth could look very strange from the front here. You can see the eyes and the mouth don't look great, but really it's what looks great from the shot camera. So at this point, let's actually go through and keep refining some stuff. So I want to raise this corner up here, mostly because I feel like the line that's getting created from this eye screen right to this one feels a little strange. So I'm going to flatten that out a little bit. Maybe bring the corner of the eye up just a little bit more there. Let's see if we can exaggerate the brows just a little bit. And maybe add just a little bit of a curl to the ends of them, just so it's not a flat straight line. So just get a little bit of a twist in there. Something like that. Maybe I just touch more tension in that brow. Maybe just bring this one, see if I can bring it out a little bit. So the reason I want to bring it out is I felt like the brow was lining up with the edge of the eye right there, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But if I can just kind of exaggerate that form and get that kind of curve that's going from eyebrow, eye to the mouth, it'll just be a little bit better. Let's see. Kind of, we're getting a little bit too much compression right in that corner. I'm going to see if I can kind of shape that a little bit better right in there. Okay, so we've got that in place. Let's start getting that sympathetic action in place here. So I like to start with the nose just because it's kind of quick and easy. The nose is going to follow the mouth a little bit. Even if we're looking at this perspective view, I want to still have it feel like it's connected. And then I can maybe like bring it up just a little bit, maybe curl it up just a little bit as well, just to kind of give that slight connection to the mouth kind of being pushed up so high. I want it to be very slight though. So we've got that. Let's actually go to the eyes, see if we can push the iris and pupil size. So in this case, if I go too small here, we're going to get some really weird stuff going on. But I can probably go a little bit smaller. The smaller you go, the more kind of arrogant and villainous you're going to go for. So if it's a little smaller, it kind of starts going into that territory. The bigger you go, the more what would be the right word? The more innocent, the more genuine the character will feel. So if I want this character to feel like arrogant, I'm just going to make those just a little bit smaller. It makes them, I don't want to say less likable, but less, I guess the best word would be genuine. It makes them feel like they're putting on a show. Shouldn't her nasal labial fold start a little higher? Yeah, it definitely could. At this point, we can kind of tweak around and see. Like, I could definitely push that up here a little bit more. That actually kind of looks not bad. Let's make that smile just a little bit bigger. Something like that. Okay. So we've got that. I think I could also maybe tweak my head angle just a bit. Let's just move that head up just a bit more, just so we can get that diagonal in there. And I think my eyes could look down just a bit. Like that. So it looks like she's looking down at someone. Okay. Treat the head angle here. Maybe a little bit more that way. Okay. Let's compare that head angle. Yeah, that definitely helps a lot. Okay. So we've got that. What else? Well, the cheek. The cheek is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to help. Because right now, it's just not really working. We're kind of getting this dip right in here. It's just things aren't looking right. So I want to take this cheek and I really want to push it up. And you can see how I can get it to overlap the eye here. And this is going to help kind of push that smile, create that connection. It also helps to take away from that big dip that we were getting in the mouth here. So I'm going to use this and I'm going to maybe scale it up a little bit, buff it out, and try to create that nice form in the face. I'll often scale up the cheek as well if I need to. So maybe scale it up just a little bit there, like so. Okay. Now from the from the side, it's going to look horrifying. We might tone it down just a little bit. Not that it really matters too much from the front, but I do want to make sure that it's not so broken, for example, that we're doing this. Oh, sure, it might look okay from here, but the lighting is going to get very strange. So it's a balance. You want to really work on getting those forms working together. Probably going to rotate this just a little bit, get the nice flow to the cheek. And then same thing with the back cheek. The back cheek is honestly going to be more important. So just like what we talked about earlier, when you're looking at the face, especially 3/4, look at the silhouette in your, yeah, she does look very, it looks like there's something wrong from the front, definitely. So if you look at your profile, when you smile, the cheeks come out. If you're angry, it goes kind of in and then out lower here. That profile is going to change depending on your mood. And you're going to have a little exaggeration on different areas. So if she's smiling here, I want that cheek to be up higher. That's what's going to sell that feeling. If I don't have that in place there, if I don't have this kind of like laugh silhouette, the character is just not going to look like they're genuine. I want that. I still want the nose to kind of stick out a little bit, but we get something a little bit more like this. And I can rotate this in just a little to get that nice kind of angle right in there. You can see that difference right there. So, let's see, what else can we push here? Maybe a little bit of the lower lid here. Just kind of exaggerate a little bit more. And yeah, there we go. So, is this done? No. Honestly, we could keep going with this. So let's actually do one more quick pass. I have a little bit more time. So I feel like there's something off with this top eyelid here. I think I can just lower it a little bit, kind of flatten it out just a bit more. It's going to help kind of sell that arrogance to the character. Maybe push the brow even more. And this is something, like I mentioned on the last pose, I really try to do in my posing is once you have it in place, push it more, make it bigger. See how you can make whatever expression that you're aiming for, try to make it even more. So let's kind of bring that down here and we can always compare. Yeah, that definitely sells that arrogance a little bit more, getting that flat lid there. So something like that. Yeah, exaggeration, exactly. When using this type of pose in an animation, do you keep from changing camera angles or have to cut so that you can keep from showing that high angle from the front? Well, you would be animating to the camera angle all the time. So let's say your character is in this pose and they're either turning their head, so they start there and then they turn their head, or they're starting here and then the camera moves around them. You just have to change the pose to match best for the different camera angles. Now, this is where it can get very tricky because ideally you don't have to change it too much. So what I would do is if I have a camera angle that I know is going to be changing a lot, where the camera, let's say, is going to spin around the character, I will try to avoid over exaggerating the pose like I'm doing here, because as the camera turns, we might have this nice view here, and then as it turns, it might start looking a little high, and that means that I'm going to have to readjust the face as the camera turns, and we might notice that. So I'll keep it a little bit more subtle. Honestly, that really depends on the style of the film. If you're going really cartoony, you're gonna have to just make it work. And by the time the camera gets to this front angle, the face is gonna be in a similar but different pose that works well for this camera angle. It really just depends on the project and what you're aiming for. Normally, the camera doesn't tend to move too much, luckily. So you're not going to have too much trouble kind of hiding it. Let's kind of get that line in there a little bit more. There we go. Shape the eye a little. And I feel like the corner is just a little too high right here. Yeah, that feels better. Now, another thing I like to do, we're not going to see it in this view, but it's something I like to try and do, is you'll notice that the skin over top of the eyelid, it's kind of just got this round shape to it. If you actually study Disney films, they always tend to push this shape to be a little bit more like so. So you get this kind of corner in the inner edge right there. I can even exaggerate this by kind of bringing this in a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but you get that squarer shape on the inside edge. So let's do that same thing here, like that. You see it a little bit more there. I like to do that as well. I feel it just kind of gives a little bit more of a visual interest to the eyelid versus just kind of even and round. Now, are we going to see it much from this view? Well, actually, let's see. Yeah, not really. But it's in there in case the camera has to move. Let's see. On a similar topic of camera angles changing, do lighting artists tend to animate lights if the camera moves drastically? For example, if they really want a strong backlight while seeing the character from the front. Yes. So you will move the lights. So for example, you can see I've got some edge lighting here, some rim lighting right there. If I had to move my camera around to this side here, suddenly the character is just blown out and we see nothing. So you will be animating, or lighting artists will sometimes need to animate lights, especially if you're dealing with a heavy rim light or a heavy like 3-point lighting setup. Lighting artists, there's a reason lighting is its own complete discipline, because it is a complex thing to do. A lot of animators, like especially going to animation school, they want to learn about lighting, they want to learn all these things. Basic lighting is simple enough, but to go into more advanced lighting, it is a whole course on its own. If you really want to push your lighting skills, you need to put in a lot of time to really understand what makes good lighting. So it's definitely something I recommend looking into if you're interested. But if you're trying to learn animation, don't worry about lighting too soon. That'll come later. So let's see. I think with that's pretty good. Okay, let's try to push this to the next level now. So we've shaped this character a lot, especially based off or coming from there. You can see poses start off ugly sometimes. It's not that your pose has to look good right away. Is knowing what you need to do to get it to look good. That's the big thing. And a lot of it really, like I said, comes down from shaping. We started from the basic here. We kind of got things in the rough position, and then we kept pushing the posing till it looks good. And it's shaping the eyes, shaping the mouth, shaping the brows, getting that contrapposto in the face, all of that good stuff. So, what's next? Well, let's say we want to push this even more. Someone mentioned adding dimples. Let's say we want to add a dimple in here. Let's say we really want to exaggerate that mouth shape maybe. How do we do that? Well, this is where blend shapes come in. So a blend shape is basically a way that we can take full control over the geometry of the rig, and we can even animate it. So to use this, I'm just going to make sure that I can select my geometry. So I can select the geo of the rig right here. Boop. And under Windows, Animation Editors, I'm going to go to the Shape Editor. The Shape Editor contains all the blend shapes on your rig. So let it load up here. There we go. So blend shapes are ways of animating geometry or modifying geometry. Most rigs will have blend shapes built in. That's what helps control the face and the body so that things don't distort and kind of get really weird. And we can add our own at any time. So to do this, let's create a blend shape here. I'm going to create one. Let's call this dimple. And once you create the blend shape, you just have to add a target to it. A target is the geometry that's actually going to be edited. So I'm going to take the face, add target. There we go. Now, with this, I can now go and modify this geometry. Let's actually save this just to make sure that I don't lose everything. So this is going to be my facial poses. Okay, save that. Always a good thing to save. I haven't saved yet this stream, so it's about time. Okay, so we've got our blend shape. Now what I can do is just modify the geometry, I can do this by selecting the faces. So for example, let's say I want to add a dimple right around here. I could select that face, turn on soft selection, and just kind of push that in. And we can get something like that. It looks like she got hit in the face, which would be really cool if we wanted someone to like poke her in the cheek, or like a ball hits her in the face. We could do something like that. And with your blend shape, you can actually tone that in and out. So let's not do that. Now, actually, I'm going to just do a quick search here for dimples, because it's always a good idea if you're going to modify something to see how it's actually formed. So I want to see a dimple. Let's just do an image search, and let's see. So dimples are kind of right in line with the mouth corner, and there's a lot of different forms of dimples. So I'm just kind of looking through here. So you have the little dots. Sometimes it's more of a line. We've got a lot of different ones here. Let's kind of pick one, and instead of just using the move tool like this by pushing the geometry in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Sculpting Tools. I'm going to use my sculpting tools to give me a little bit of control. So I think we can probably do this with the Sculpt tool. And I'm just going to make sure Sculpt tool is active. Okay. And probably need a little bit more strength in there. Okay, good. So I can just kind of take this and push that in right there. So, oops, a little too strong there. Push that in, create just a little bit of a dimpling in there. So, kind of looking at this here, I'm just kind of blocking it in roughly first, and then kind of pushing it back out here. So we could do something like that. That's not quite looking like a dimple. So let's actually push that back a little bit. Undo, undo, undo. And let's tone down the strength. Kept it kind of impaling it into there. And actually, I feel like that's a little too close where I'm putting it. For this character, it feels like it should be around kind of here. Okay. So make that really deep, and then kind of bring it back. Something like that. Kind of shape it back in. There we go. So we get a little bit of a dimple. And I can animate that in and out. So now as she's smiling, we can bring in the dimple. And if I wanted to, I can maybe even, I see a lot of people when they get that dimple, they kind of get the little bit of a line right in here. Is my tablet messing up with the pressure sensitivity? Yeah. Every time I let go, for some reason, it impacts it. So we can push that line right in there too. Just a little bit, so it's not just a one area. So we can have our dimple layer right in there. Helps shape that a little bit more. We can create another blend shape. So I'm just going to leave the name blank for now. But let's say we want to add just kind of a modification layer to help push the forms of this smile a little bit more. So this is where you can really start exaggerating things. So let's say we've got this smile, and I'm just going to use the grab tool this time. And what if we want to really get that twisted grin right in here? And by twisted, I mean not nice and smooth, but we get kind of this sharp line right here. Well, there you go. I can take this, and now we get this nice sharp line right in that corner. What if I want to make the smile even bigger? Let's just grab this whole thing. I can just move the whole mouth over. Make it even larger than it was before. What else? What if I want the cheek to be a little bit bigger? I can take this and let's make that grab a little bit larger. It's, if you're gonna make a modification to like a muscle mass, it's good to take a big grab to it. So I can kind of pull that up a little bit more. Maybe I don't like this line that's getting created like right here. It's kind of weird. If we look at it in real life, it's kind of smooth right there. It's not like it's creating this shelf on top of the eye. So let's take that and see if we can smooth that out a little bit. Just a little. So kind of bring that in there. Maybe raise that up just a little bit. So we're just kind of reducing that little bit of distortion, or that shelf there. Let's see. I don't know if it's just me or if it's just being picky, but that chin part leading into the ear doesn't it look a bit flat? Yeah, so that's the other area right here. See how we feel that mass of the cheek, and then like right here there's this square section like right there that is totally flat. The rig doesn't really go up to that point. The cheek controls don't affect that point. But that point would definitely have some mass, because that's where our masseter muscles is. That's the jaw muscle right there, what allows us to actually chew. So I would, if I'm going to make an exaggerated smile like this, I would most definitely want to add just a little bit more kind of weight in there. So let's see what tool we can use. Maybe the bulge tool. No, the bulge tool kind of gave me some issues last time. Let's see. Maybe we'll just try with a lower strength and a bigger brush. Even bigger. So I'm just taking this and I'm bringing out the musculature right in there. Just a little bit. Lower that down a little bit. You can see it's very slight. Now I'm actually going to update my brush size here just a little bit, because my minimum brush size is too small. I want that to be wider. So as I draw this, I'm not just doing a little pinpoint. I want to bring up a whole area. Okay, smooth it down. There we go. It's always good to double check from multiple angles. Make sure you're not kind of ruining the geometry. There we go. Now it's no longer flat. Yeah, it was bothering me as well. That one and the chin. You'll notice that we're not really getting that chin. It's just this big flat mass right here from this view. Well, there's not really a control to just push that one area in right there. So I could take my brush and let's kind of just push that in a little bit. Oop, a little too far. But now we're starting to shape that lip just a little bit, and we have that feeling of a chin in there a little bit more. I can even start adding in the muscle mass here. So there's a muscle that runs down here around the chin. So you get the dip there, and then the muscle that goes over here. So we're starting to build that in just a little bit. Do we have to do all of this? No, not at all. But this is all stuff we can do if we wanted. If we really wanted to help exaggerate our posing, we are not limited to what the rig gives us. So if I want to make the cheek really big here, and just get that extra little bit in the cheek there, I could. Now let's actually see how much we push this. If we tone this in and out, you can see it's not a huge change, but we're just adjusting the mass in this case to be a little bit better in some areas. And this is where, like, if you wanted to, you can go all the way to like the Grinch level posing, where if I wanted the mouth to really be crazy, I could like pull this up and just get that wave through the whole thing. And I could do that if I wanted. In this case, I don't want to. But it is an option. I have that freedom. So, blend shapes. Really, really good. Very powerful. Yes, I would only do this at the end, not through the animation process, unless your pose is so pushed that you're getting some breaking in the posing. Then I might use a blend shape, like, not right away, but like once I get into like splining for a few of the keys, maybe, just to fix some things. But yeah, that's definitely a late something I'll only do later in the process. Let's see. See, in the industry, do you have any internal software to do this, or do you always go through the shape editor? It depends on the program you're using. So most studios use Maya right now. So the shape editor is what you're going to be using. Some studios have their own proprietary software. Some have plugins that you can use to make this work. Others, you can't do this at all. So especially the game animation, you really can't do this kind of stuff. It's not going to translate into the game engine unless you're doing the cinematics. So it's very dependent. When you're working at a studio, you really have to ask them what their policy is on this kind of stuff. Or they'll tell you what you're allowed and not allowed to do. Now, I just realized we haven't even pushed our exaggeration controls here. So if we wanted to, we could really like stretch the face out here, get that narrow chin, or kind of push the chin up here, kind of get that a little bit more arrogance in there. Maybe just bring the mouth over this way so we push that line of action in the face just a little bit more. Bring that up just a tad. There we go. So it's not a huge change, but it does add a little bit extra. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So in both cases, as we're doing these facial expressions, a lot of it really comes down to pushing the face and shaping it. It's the hay from Spider-Verse. Yeah, I guess it does kind of look like that a little bit. That was such a good facial expression, the hay. He puts the hand on the shoulder. Oh, I need to watch Spider-Verse again. Dang it. What a bad problem to have. Or sorry, what a good problem to have. Having to watch Spider-Verse. Oh no, poor me. What will I do? It's such a good film. Oh, if anyone hasn't seen Spider-Verse yet, do yourself the favor and watch Spider-Verse. It is amazing. It's probably one of my favorite films of all time. It is so good. Yeah, the shoulder touch. Oh man. Do we have time for the meme face? I can try. So try to get this. We'll turn this into this. We'll see if we can do it. Hey, the Ching Bear, hello! I just noticed it was you. How's it going? So let's quickly see if we can get that meme face in there. And then we'll probably have to call it there because I need to get to work. But oh, the leap of faith scene. Yes, when he goes up and he's about to jump and then he goes back down to a smaller building. Oh man, I love that film so much. So good. So let's get this in here, and as I'm doing this, I'm just gonna try to go pretty quick. And let's actually, do I want to start from here or here? I might start from here. This way I have less to reset. Okay. And then I'm going to open up my shape editor and make sure I key this because I don't want these turned on when I'm doing this face here. So the nice thing with the shape editor is you can't animate it. So, it's gone. Okay. So let's go thing. Is it possible to ask a question which is surely very often asked? Oh, definitely. I don't mind questions that get asked often, mostly because I know that some people, this might be your first stream here, or maybe you missed a stream where I answered that question already. These common questions are things that we as animators kind of have to go through all the time. So it's the reason why they're common. So if you have a question that you feel is common or like maybe too simple or oh, everyone knows the answer to this already, I won't ask it. Ask away. Even if we already had the answer, you never know what kind of weird tangents it can lead to, which can be a lot of fun. So yeah, long answer to say yes, you can. So here the mouth is going to be a little lower. Now once again, you'll notice that the face looks awful. It just really does. That's fine. We're not worried about getting this perfect just yet. We're just getting the main shapes blocked out. If you think of this in sculpting terms, it's really just getting your main block out, your main proportions in place. So how wide do I want the mouth? How big do I want the eyes? All of that. The music is so good too. I know everything in Spider-Verse is good. I would almost say that Spider-Verse is a perfect film. It's just so good. The story is great. Everything, the characters make the pupils just a little smaller, make it kind of scared looking. Now, if I'm going for the meme face, I could just make the pupils really big. Other way, like that. Just get that nice black shape to them. So we'll do something like that. Okay. Now let's kind of get the eyes in place here. Do a little bit of shaping. Specifically those corners of the eye, especially this one. Whoop. Bring that in. You can see how much of a difference that makes. That one corner, especially when you've got these extreme head angles, that inner corner of the eye is going to make a big difference. Now I'm also going to just try to push a little bit of the asymmetry here. Even though like the meme face is a puppet, I'm going to try to push it a little bit more. Okay, let's pull this back just a little bit. Oops, that's the corner. I want this one. just a little bit so we don't get that clipping. I've been passionate about animation since I was little. Nice. Is there an optimized learning path or process for learning to animate? And is drawing a mandatory skill? I'll start with the drawing part first. It's just an easier question to answer. No, it is not mandatory. I cannot draw very well. I can draw enough to do like gesture drawing, things like that. But in terms of actual like drawing to animate, no, I cannot do that. It's beyond my skill level. When I first started learning how to animate, I couldn't draw at all. So drawing as an essential skill, it is not. Is it good to learn drawing? Yeah, eventually. And it doesn't have to be like amazing art. Just enough to kind of get your planning in place and get ideas down. That's really it. The big reason is it's just faster to draw things than it is to try and pose all of it out. Like you can see here, trying to pose this out takes a long time. So yeah, you do not need to know how to draw. Now, optimized learning path. There is no one optimized learning path. Everyone's a little different. The biggest thing that's going to help with learning animation is focusing on the fundamentals first. Focusing on really understanding what the 12 principles of animation are, why do we use them, how can we use them to improve our work, things like that. That's going to be essential. If you don't have those 12 principles really understood, everything else just becomes harder. Not that it's impossible, but it's trickier to get things working the way you want. So that's going to be the biggest thing that helps. Now, in terms of actually learning all of that and kind of getting better at it, it really depends on each person. Some people learn very well on their own, so they don't need to go to animation school. They can just kind of do it and that's it. You don't need to worry about anything else. Other people work best with kind of a mentorship, like an online school, something like that. So that's going to be being kind of conscious of your own learning and what works best for you. There's no solid answer, unfortunately. For me, I tend to be pretty good at learning things on my own, but I know that it does take me a lot longer because, well, to put it bluntly, I tend to procrastinate if I'm trying to learn things on my own. Unless I have like a goal and an assignment and kind of a deadline, I will tend to put things off in favor of, well, other things that I need to do. That's creepy. So having that really helps. Now, even if you're working on your own, setting deadlines for yourself can be really good. Giving yourself a timeline to do things and not getting caught in a common issue that we tend to have just as artists is the nitpicking, the noodling, where you're just working on one animation over and over and over and over. It never ends. So you have to give yourself a deadline and just go, you know, if I'm not done this animation, this project, this pose by whatever time, I'm moving on to the next thing. It's tough because sometimes you just feel like, I just want to finish it. I just want to get it done. But that's really going to help get you get you used to just getting through things and on to the next one, continuing the learning. There's no eyebrows in this, the meme pose, so I'm just kind of guessing what the eyebrows should be. Keep the eyes simple. There we go. One thing I would recommend is just looking up online schools. If you're interested in animation, that they're really the best schools right now. So Animation Mentor, iAnimate, Anim School. Check all of them out. They are really good. I work for Animation Mentor, so I have kind of a preference there. I was there as a student. I teach there now. I work there. I just love that school. I'm super passionate about that school. But the other schools are just as good. They are fantastic. So it's really whichever one you feel will work best for you. Everyone's a little different. But yeah, I hope that kind of helps. I know it's not a really like definitive answer, but if you have questions on that, let me know. And can we disable the eyebrows? We can. That's a good idea. It really is. There's only one scene that throws off the pace a little bit. Spider Mech. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see your point on that. Let's see, other brother Pratt can draw. Yes, he can. He can draw very well. And Johan, oh, you're the one that did the caricature. Oh, I loved it, especially the hair poof. You captured that so well. Thank you so much for sending that. I really appreciate it. That I've got a collection of like fan art, and every day is like, oh man, people are so talented, so cool. But yeah, that was really kind of you. Thank you so much for doing that. NS Films. I just started off with the acting rigs at AM. Do you have any advice on avoiding pitfalls with the mouth and eye controls? Start with the big controls first, work your way down to the narrow ones, kind of like what we've been doing in these demos. The worst thing you can do is just kind of pose out the big ones and just kind of leave them at their default, or else you start getting things like this or like this. Ugh, no. You want to shape them and really take the time to shape things. And we're getting those dimples in there. I need to turn off that dimple layer early on. So yeah, shaping is going to be very important, but you want to work your way up to the shaping, not start just shaping it right away, or else you're just going to get caught in too much detail too early. Are these expensive courses worth it? If you're talking about Animation Mentor, iAnimate, those, yes, they're definitely worth it. Now, with that said, and for anyone who's been in these streams, you're gonna know, I say this way too often. I am not a fan of people having to go into debt or having to like spend a ton of money just to learn something that they're passionate about. To me, an ideal world would be anyone should be able to learn what, like, to be able to do what you want to do without having to like spend an arm and a leg and all that to get to it. So be very careful when you're like, or don't go into debt for learning, but at the same time, if it's really something you're passionate about, investing the money in it is not a bad thing. Now, with that said, this is also why on this channel everything is free. There is no paywall. There's no like you have to be a sub to get a critique, you have to be a sub to get so and so. There's no Patreon, there's nothing like that, because I want do we want to do this? I'll let you guys decide if we want to go this route. But I know there's a lot of people who are new to animation who don't know if this is really what they want to do, and maybe they just don't have the money to invest in an online school just yet, or whatever. I want cursed exactly. I want this to be a resource for anyone to use at any time. So there's no paywalls here. It's really all for you guys. So yeah, I would say they're worth it, but be again, I'm not a fan of going into debt for pretty much anything if you can avoid it. Can you talk about feature animation versus game cinematics animation? I'd like to work toward developing my reel for both. If you're specifically looking for game cinematics, honestly, there's no difference. Game cinematics, it's feature film animation nowadays. There's real, like, you look at the World of Warcraft trailers, they are like, they could be a film. That's really it. I will say, like, game cinematics tend to be a little bit more action oriented, just in the style of games. So if you're trying to tailor your reel, try to tailor a little bit more towards the action scenes compared to like subtle just acting and sitting and doing nothing. Try to have the characters move around a little bit more. Action, even if they're acting, have them doing something while they act. Now, this is different from game animation itself. Game animation is going to be much more like physical stuff, not so much acting, really trying to make sure your animation looks good from every angle, things like that. Yeah, exactly. Gameplay oriented animations are a whole other beast. So if you're specifically looking for cinematics, honestly, with the technology nowadays, game cinematics are just as good as feature film. Let's get those eyelids out of the way so it just looks like the meme. There's not even eyelids. Yes, we're getting there. Aha. This is horrible. What are you guys making me do? Noelia. Let's see. I hope that answers the question. Oh, the Valorant cinematic was so good. Sorry if I took you a long time with this question. Not at all. I tend to just ramble when I answer questions. I go on so many tangents and weird detours. So as long as it's helpful to you, that's the important thing. Let's see. People who can't afford these schools, do you think the internet is do you think internet and a cheaper school enough? Yeah. You can learn a lot. Like, just look at YouTube videos, look at Animators Island. I'll post the link again for anyone who doesn't or didn't see that earlier. These are great resources for learning animation. You've got a lot of animation blogs. There's resources like this Twitch stream here. You have Sir Wade's channel actually down below. There's a whole resource of animation specific Twitch streams. Check those out, as well as some YouTube channels. You can learn a lot of animation just on your own. Again, you can become a feature film animator just on your own without ever going to a school. And the cool thing is, in animation, it doesn't matter if you went to a school or not. No one's going to care about your certificate. Oh, you went to Sheridan? Well, of course, here's your job. Oh, you're self-taught? No, we don't want you. There's none of that. All they care about is your demo reel. I know people who have gone to Sheridan, like these big expensive schools, who didn't get a job, whereas someone who is self-taught got that same job because their skill was better. It doesn't matter how much you pay, it just matters how much work you put in and how good you are, which is really cool, because as long as you put in the work and put in the time and really progress your learning, you're going to get there. You don't have to pay for an online school. It's not like being a doctor where, oh, you went to Harvard? Well, here's all your jobs. Oh, you went to a local university? Nah, your certificates aren't good enough for our hospital, kind of thing. No, it's not like that at all. So, yeah, you can definitely learn. That's not a problem. Let's see. What I've been able to learn just from watching you is that I was always satisfied with poses I was making, but I wasn't taking a real deep dive on the details of posing. Yeah, that was a problem I had for a long time as well, where you kind of pose things out and it's like, you reach a point where it's like, I'm good. This feels right. But the more you kind of dive deep and look for, especially the sympathetic actions, you can really push things to a whole other level. And that's where the fun really begins. Just in terms of appeal, and you get poses that are so unique and interesting. And where am I from? I'm in Canada, so Manitoba, Canada specifically. Frozen North, right in the middle. Let's see. I feel sorry for anyone who's just jumping into this stream and seeing this face for the first time. Uh, okay, let's see. I have a question about beginner animation courses. I took notice that the basic course in AM is the same price as the more advanced courses. I'm under the impression that a beginner course, which has beginner information, that's less exclusive and is more accessible online since it's beginner, should be less expensive. Not really. The AM Basics course is 2,500. Yeah. Would it be smarter financial decision to learn the basics of animation? That's the tricky thing. Like you are correct in saying that the basics of animation are more accessible. You can kind of find the information everywhere. But the basics of animation is the most important thing that you're going to ever learn. It is. I'm going to actually go full screen on this because it's actually that important. The basics of animation is what everything is built on. If you do not have a super solid, strong foundation on the basics, nothing is going to work. None of the acting, none of the facial animation, none of the anything else is going to work unless you know those basics. So the basic course is not just like an overview of the basics. Here's the 12 principles, timing, spacing, but hey, move on. No, it is a deep dive on all of the basics. Why do you need these basics? Why do you apply them here? How can you make them better? It's so important. It's so important that I've known people who worked at studios. I think one of them was like a Disney animator, or yeah, one was a Disney animator. There was a DreamWorks animator. Some others from like other studios like MPC and things like that, who came to Animation Mentor. They were working at a studio, and they took class 1, and that they mentioned that they learned more in that class than they've known at being like studio animators. There were things about their fundamentals that they didn't even realize were a thing. So yes, like it is the basics, but it is so important. You cannot like skip it. And that's kind of like in terms of pricing, it's not that you're learning less and it's the basics, and it's not that like as much as the cool stuff later on. They are equally, if not more important. And the amount that you learn is the same. So it's not like you're just learning a little bit, just a few things and then move on. So yeah, in terms of pricing, like it is very, very important, and it's just as jam-packed of information as later on. And do employers care about your AM grades? Oh no, my camera! No! Of course, right at the... Hey, actually it lasted pretty long today. Usually it's the 3-hour mark that my camera dies. Do the recruiters care about your grades? No. Recruiters will not care about your Animation Mentor grades whatsoever. It's really just your demo reel. So as a student, if you're getting low grades, don't take it like, man, I'm not going to get a job in the industry. The only important thing about the grades is that it's telling you where you're at for this current course. If you're getting, let's say you're in class 3 and you're getting kind of C's, middle ground, so like just average grades, it's not bad, it's not ideal, but it just means that you need to focus more on your fundamentals, on the stuff that the course is telling you about right now, and that you're not quite ready for the more advanced stuff, like just yet. So it's really just a way for you to gauge what your understanding of the course material is right now. That's the goal of it. When you're applying for jobs, no one will care. It's really, that's about it. When I'm going to animate Snooty Bo. Aha, Snooty Bo. You gotta get the nose up, and got the air of refinement and false security. Let's see. Hey, from Quebec. Hey, bonjour. Let's see. What do you think about Think Tank? I haven't really checked out Think Tank, so I can't say for sure. Getting at better arcs and spacing will make your life so much easier. Yes. Like arcs and spacing, we've done analyses on films. Like there's an analysis on this channel on Hilda. It's all about arcs and spacing. You look at that film, that show, I should say. And the animation is so good, and it really just boils down to the arcs and the spacing. Everything else is built on top of that. Let's see. Yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, that's exactly true. AM is 2,500, and the university, they'll only teach you the basics, and it'll take 4 years typically, and you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life. It sucks. It's terrible. Let's see. I spent an entire winter in the frozen swamps of Upper Ontario. Ooh, that's cold. About 100 kilometers north of Timmins. Oh yeah, exploring for gold. Oh, that's cool. That must have been an adventure. That's really cool. I've always wanted to go kind of further north like that, just to experience it. See, so I'll just kind of finish up this pose here. I got a little distracted, but it was fun. So I'm just gonna push this a little bit more. I want to see if I can change the brow shape a little bit. I kind of like it higher up. It gives that freaked out expression. What else? I felt like I had something else I wanted to add. I think it was the pupil or the iris size. Kind of wanted to make it just a little smaller. Oh, wrong way. Just a little smaller. And what else can we push here? Just a little bit. Yes, she has joined the Perfect Aya family. Make those eyes just a little bit wider. If I wanted to, I could even scale the eyes, which actually might not be a bad idea. So let's just scale them up a little bit. Just not too much. Just a little bit. And then to kind of match with the puppet, I'm going to just give a little bit extra lower lid right here. Make that a little lower, and then let's bring the cheeks down. Yeah, something like that. There we go. Maybe a little too far. There we go. We're getting it. Pepe Aya. Oh no. No, we can't start doing this. We can't start going into only meme faces. Let's see. I think we're pretty good. Let's see. Let's compare. I think we could add a little bit more of an angle to the head. Just add a little tilt. Let's see, what else could we add? I could sculpt in like the lines of the mouth there. Saitama blank face. Oh man, that would be an awesome one. Just the flat eye with the just the flat top curved bottom eyes. Oh, that would be fun. This is actually something I like to do from time to time, is just kind of take meme faces and then just see if you can pose it out. We did that a while back. We did like the uwu face. So the that face, which actually worked out pretty well. We even got the mouth shaped right. So yeah, so we did the owo and the uwu. Yeah, we did both. I wonder if I still have those. They should be somewhere on my system. But yeah, let's actually save this. Keep this for later. But yay, we did it. It worked. What horrors have I thrown upon this world? We had such a nice face here, and then we went to this one.